All right, so back here at the car, this thing goes in like this. So this little bracket is in the way. I've got to slip it under it to get it to really go in there. Not sure how I did this before. There we go. Oh yeah, it fits in there perfectly. It's perfectly molded to everything on this part of the car, so that worked out really well. So the next step is just to begin to shape it while it's attached to the air filter box, and then start planning how the fiberglass and everything is going to go on it. And what I'll probably do is get it generally shaped and then cover the whole thing with fiberglass resin. Just lightly paint it with the resin just to kind of create an initial shell, and then I'll start, after that dries, I'll start putting fiberglass cloth on it. When it's finished, I'll take the whole fiberglass shell, like once I've got it really done, I'll use acetone. I'll just pour acetone inside it, and the acetone will eat away this foam. It'll just liquefy it. I'll show a little example of that. We'll cut a piece off of it and dip it in acetone and see what it does, but it should just absolutely dissolve it into nothing. So I'll clean out all this foam from inside of that shell that I make, and hopefully it'll work out well. So the next step is move back over the bench and start shaping it. All right, so I know it's more or less 9.5 inches from here to the bottom of these, and I want to cut the foam a little bit below them, so I'm going to say about 10 inches. So when I put the foam on there and I measure from the top of that, this mark right here is about 10 inches. So I'm going to cut just with a handsaw on that line, generally in or parallel to the bottom here, to give me the start of my flat surface at the bottom, which is the surface that that pipe is going to come up into. So let me grab a handsaw to do that. And these surfaces, so this is for the most part perpendicular to this. So if I cut following this bottom edge, more or less, it should work out reasonably well. Or I'll be doing it all again. All right, there we go. So there's the bottom. Stuff's in really good shape. Like it's the perfect density, I think, for this. Now, shape-wise, I'm not going to mess with this quite yet, or this side quite yet, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Forstner bit and use it. So for example, this 5/8 inch Forstner bit, I can pretty gently cut into here in a few places with the Forstner bit and go down just to the shoulder of the cutting part of the bit, so that I'm down a certain depth. That's about 3/8 of an inch. So I'll be down 3/8 of an inch, a bunch of holes, and then what I'll do is I'll rasp everything off down to the bottom of those holes. So I'm using the Forstner bit just to give me a guide as to where I want this thing to be. And in the end, that'll put the foam surface about 3/8 of an inch away from the existing inside of the fender. Once I cover it with fiberglass and Bondo and whatnot and finish it, it'll still leave me a reasonable gap in there. I don't want it touching the fender, but I want it to look like it clearly was made to fit into that nook. So I'll leave this edge and this edge for last. This part right here is superfluous. I'll probably cut down at an angle just to remove a big chunk of this. Probably like that. I'll remove that chunk, and that way when I start shaping it and rounding it with a rasp, I'm not having to remove all this with a rasp. I'll just shave that off with the saw. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Actually, all right, and now I'm going to do the top. So let me go get a measurement on the car from the center of this bolt to where I want it to end. Really, just 3/4 of an inch below that, which is not much. That's good, and these two surfaces, the bottom and the top, are reasonably parallel. Certainly good enough for this stage. So the next move will be to put the depth marks in this whole thing and start rasping it down to those points, and then start making all the curves fair, which just meaning reasonable, not abrupt, and something that looks pretty decent. Needs to look a little bit organic, I guess, for lack of a better word. So, I'll get set up for that. I got the drill in here. And time to make some holes. All right, there we go. Those are all, for the most part, down to the same depth. Now I'm going to do the same thing across here. And there we go. So that just gives me a guide to rasp to. So next step is to start rasping. So I gotta change my clothes. Actually, I'll do this in the morning because it's getting late. But, so, see you in the morning.